Hey, welcome to Open Bible, Open Life. I'm Pastor Kyle, and today I am joined by our kids ministry team, and I'm just really excited for you guys to be here. Thank you in the midst of busy schedules and very full Sundays and lots of preparation that goes from Sunday to Sunday. Thanks for being here. Let me just take a moment and, let me ask you guys just quickly, and then I'll make some comments. Introduce yourselves. We'll start over here.
Yeah. So I'm Johnson Waterer. I'm the director of family ministry.
I am Leslie Vogel. I am the kids ministry coordinator, also married to David Vogel.
Pastor Dave.
Pastor Dave.
David King, and I'm the associate director of family ministries.
Yes, man. Well, grateful to have you guys on here. I want to go back, like we do often. One of the reasons that we're doing this podcast, there's lots of reasons. We want to dive deeper into the sermon. We want people to get to know our staff and some people in our church. We want people to understand our kids ministry. You know, as I've thought before, I'm like, there are young people, there are single people, there are young couples with no kids, there are some empty nesters. And back when we were at our Northwest Boulevard campus, our old campus, it would be possible to not even realize we had a kids ministry. I mean, even as monumental and big of a deal as it is, it was in the other building. In fact, in this new building, which we've now been in for over 5 months, is the first time that we have the kids ministry and the just worship gathering together in the same building. I want to go back all the way to the beginning. Leslie, I want to start with you. So Leslie, tell us, before you joined, of course, Pastor Dave is our executive pastor here. You guys were one of the earliest people to join our launch team. I want you to talk to me, though, about what were you doing before you were on our launch team? Not your job in the sense of like what you did for a living. I mean, what was your role when you were at North Star Church in Knoxville? Yeah. Tell us the experiences you had that prepared you for the ministry you're now doing.
Yeah, so when I graduated college, I was a teacher. I taught for a few years, and then I ended up writing curriculum for several years. We had I helped a lot with the kids ministry at North Star. I became best friends with the preschool director there, and so she kind of took me under her wing, and she showed me how to do everything that you need to do for a kids ministry. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I think it's funny. I was recently at a gathering with other pastors' wives of church planters with the Summit Collab, and kind of the running joke for church planters' wives is that like you get forced into doing kids ministry because there's nobody else to do it, and like your kids are the only kids in the kids ministry kind of thing. But like when we came to plant with the Mercers, with you all, I was like begging you all to let me do it.
This is true. Just for, I don't know if you guys know the story. She's like basically, and if you're a church planter out there and someone says, could I please run the kids ministry? You're like, let me pray about it. Yes. Immediately. I mean, I had no experience. I mean, I had been a college pastor. I had no experience in kids ministry. You came in early on. Tell us, and then we'll get to these guys, but tell us early on, like how did our kids ministry start?
Yeah, I mean, we're so blessed to have 100 people on our launch team.
On our launch team, that's right. How many kids did we have early on? Do you remember?
I just looked on Planning Center. Our first, our launch Sunday, we had 57 kids.
Wow.
In the kids ministry. And so we had a couple of classrooms. I remember we had walkers and nursery were together, separated by this little wall thing in one room. And, we had a preschool room and an elementary room, and that was it. And so, but we had some great volunteers from day one. And then I very quickly roped Melissa Vaughn, just shout out to her, into helping me and getting things off the ground. And I kind of tried to take everything I had learned at North Star, and then you had given me so many resources from the summit, and that was super helpful, and just tried to put everything together and make it happen. I remember our first kids volunteer meeting, there were maybe 20 people, in my Ardmore basement, and now we have how many volunteers do we have now?
450.
About 450.
About 450.
450. So. God bless those guys, volunteers.
It's amazing.
Okay, so that's a good thing for people to know. So we started out, we had 2 evening services at Goler. We often will talk about how many people we had. Every time if we say, for example, that at Goler we grew to 600, which is true, really that was probably 450 adults and 150 kids. So we outgrow there. We get over to Northwest Boulevard. The interesting thing about our kids ministry is it grows. Well, let me say it this way: our church grew to about 1,000 people, with 2 moms. You be one of them. Yeah. 2 moms working part-time, leading our kids. Now, you had a ton of volunteers. Yes. But then I want to talk about, David, let's start with you. When you get to two cities, if you can remember, and again, you were a member before you were with the kids ministry.
Sure.
But when you transitioned to begin to serve and help in an official capacity with the kids ministry, what was that like? Where was our kids ministry at that point?
Yeah, so it's been a little over 3 years for me now. When I first started, there was Leslie and Melissa, and then there was Sherry that was helping them as
That's
a
right.
very core
Yes.
volunteer
Yep.
who's been around for a long time.
Forever, yes.
But what I saw when I got there was they were doing all the work in the ministry and no one was working on the ministry.
Yes.
And so we quickly tried to develop a team during the week that would be able to offload all that they did. We call it our admin team, so that Melissa and Leslie could be freed up to do the work on the ministry that they needed to, that only staff can do, so that volunteers came in, and we started with a few that would do some, and we've grown that team now to over, I think we have 18 people now that come in weekly and spend a lot of hours setting up our kids ministry and running it behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the vast majority of people who are listening to this podcast are probably at some level already involved, invested in our church. And I think what the average person doesn't know, maybe even the person who drops their kids off in kids ministry, they don't realize, this is just how all ministry is, everything, but they don't realize all that goes into it. I mean, I remember early on, I was early in the church, I was preaching, of 52 Sundays, I was preaching 48 of them or 46. I was just preaching a ton. And but every once in a while, it didn't happen often, but I would be not preaching and I would be in town. And so, and then this is back at Goler, or even early days at Northwest Boulevard, and we'd have 2 services or 4 services. And my wife, Margie, who was serving the kids ministry, she'd always say, well, when I'm serving, why don't you come on over and see it? And even though I'm the senior pastor, and I should know a lot about this stuff, I walk over there and I'm like, whoa, we're having church over here. I mean, there is food, there's multiple volunteers in every room. There is worship, there is Bible teaching, there is prayer. We'll get into all that because I want to talk about what a weekend looks like, how you prepare. I want to talk about some of that. Johnson, tell us, I know you came on doing some residency stuff with us, but talk about your transition into the kids ministry, what that's been like for you, how long you've been doing that, and I'm asking a lot of questions at once. Sure. And where was the ministry when you came?
Yeah, so I kind of had the fortunate grace of just being able to walk into a kids ministry that was well established, had great foundation to work off of, and really just kind of continuing to carry the torch that was passed to me from Leslie and Melissa and continuing to work on this team. Same thing with you, David. And so it's been... it's just been a blessing to see how God has continued to grow our kids' ministry, grow our church overall, but continue to use us as a conduit for the gospel in these kids' lives. So that's been our main initiative. And obviously, we were in a season of moving into the new building when I came on board.
Yes.
And so that was one of the big initiatives that we were starting to look at and what that looks like to move a whole kids' ministry building into a kids' ministry wing, getting all of our new storage space, which we were very thankful for. But that was a big part of my coming in, is getting ready for the inevitable move into this wonderful building.
Yes. Yeah. Leslie, and others can jump in on this, but I would love to hear, because I don't know if people understand how intentional the content that we teach is to the kids. And of course, it's age appropriate. Tell us a little bit about Gospel Project. What is it? And what, like somebody who starts on our kids ministry at, at any age, but let's just say someone's dropped off at 4 or 5 years old, but they're going to be here until they're in 5th grade. What is their experience going to be like?
Yeah. So we've from day one, we've used the Gospel Project. That actually, I was familiar with it from my previous church, but it's just, I've done a lot of research, and there's just nothing else out there that's quite like it.
Why is that?
So basically, you start in Genesis, go all the way through Revelation. So you cover the entire Bible. It takes 3 years to get through it. And every story has Christ as the hero. Christ is the main focus of the story. And the gospel is presented so clearly in every single activity, every single craft, every single thing that's in the lessons. And they do such a great job in making it all very age appropriate. I was thinking about so much of your job is to take God's word and explain it in a way that we can understand it, right? And apply it to our lives. And I feel like that's what, we do on the kid level, right? And so, not only are we trying to provide an environment where kids have fun and feel safe and parents feel good about dropping their kids off, but also we've got to communicate the gospel to them in a way that they can understand it. And we have, we use the curriculum from 5th grade all the way down to our 1-year-olds do it. And so I just think Gospel Project is it's so intentional about providing not only like a biblical foundation of like, do you know the story of Noah? Do you know the story of Moses or whatever? But it gives them the whole picture and helps them see Christ in every story along the way. And so a child that comes into our ministry has, I think, 3 opportunities to go through the entire Bible before they graduate. And obviously you're not going to remember as much from when you're 1.
Yeah.
But the hope is this gives them a foundation to grow. And when they do enter middle and high school, where they start wrestling with their faith and start trying to make their faith their own, that they have this foundation of like, when I read the Bible, I'm not trying to find myself in there. Like, I'm trying to find Christ. I'm trying to know who God is and understand more about him. And I think the Gospel Project just does a really good job at that.
So when you think about keys to any ministry, there's you've got to have the right content. So thank God for Gospel Project.
Yeah.
Good, that's from Lifeway, good gospel-centered teaching, love all that. Then, there's probably so many components. Another huge component is going to be volunteers.
Yes.
It's going to be people.
Yes.
I've unashamedly said for years that I really do think the kids volunteers are the varsity volunteers in the sense of there is no, and we're not against any other type of volunteer, but I'm saying there's no break, sneak over to the VHQ during yours. There's no, maybe I won't serve and attend. Maybe I'll kind of watch and whatever. If I'm a parking lot guy, maybe I'll sneak in late and leave early. Right. There ain't none of that. We know that. And so I want to hear, David, from you. I know you do so much with our volunteers and coordinate so many things. I want to hear from you. Man, tell us about just our volunteer culture in the kids and the quality of people. Tell us what it looks like to volunteer and be a part of our kids' ministry.
Wow, I know
there's lots of you take any of those. We can
it's a lot to think about, but just the culture itself is, man, our people are resilient. And you think, so I mentioned the admin team earlier. Let me bring that back into it. So what we do as the admin team is we prepare all things behind the scenes, but we do it with this in mind, 22-year-olds at our feet. Because that helps us remember why we're doing what we're doing, because that's what the teachers do. They're trying to focus on teaching the lesson and teaching the gospel, and every single thing that we can do to allow them to do that uninterrupted is what it's about. And there are weeks where they come in and they've got a couple of young boys that are a little bit rambunctious and not going to let them teach as smoothly as they want to, but they're resilient and they keep teaching and they keep focused and they try to maintain the streamline of the gospel the entire way through, like Leslie said, through the lessons, all the different elements to bringing home the heart of it. So resilient is the first thing I think about. And I would say the second is love. I've got an example of one leader who legitimately had a breakdown in the hallway because we were having some struggles with a couple of the kids. Yeah. And she said, "Can we do anything about this?" And at this point, I didn't know that the struggle was so bad in her class. Yeah. But she comes out and she's heartbroken, not about the kids, not about one kid doing this to another or whatever. She's heartbroken because she cannot teach the gospel in that moment. And that's the heart of our volunteers. Yeah. They're there because that's what they want to do.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've seen so many, I can think of lots of different people, but when I think about who's wearing the t-shirts, because that's one of the ways you can tell. It's where one of the, you guys are one of the volunteer cultures where you can go, all right, I see that light blue t-shirt. Okay, you're serving in kids.
There's a pride about it for sure.
There should be. I think there is so many young ladies I see among men as well. I love seeing in fact, I've had before, at least on one occasion, one of the young ladies, which I appreciate, and this leads to something else I want to talk about, email me and say, hey, your son's in my class, and I just wanted to say, and anyway, just said some encouraging things. I'm like, man, these volunteers, they're not just filling a slot, right? Or they're like, no. I'm thinking of he serves now in students, but I'm thinking of Corey Pendergrass. Yeah. Corey Pendergrass is like, I'm going to be the guy, and let's go. Give me the fourth graders or give me the fifth graders. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about Johnson. Let's go to you for here. So we've got several, because I try to say these publicly. We've got several phrases we talk about, with our kids ministry. We wanted to meet Jesus and make friends. That'd be one of them. But a big one that we commandeered from the summit is we really would like to partner with parents to raise a generation in Christ. That phrase, partner with parents. Often I'll say, hey, we can't replace you. We want to resource you.
That's it.
Talk about, as much as you can, how do we partner with parents?
Yeah.
And how do you see the kids ministry as partnering with parents? Yes. Are there other things that we do to come alongside parents? Talk about that for a little bit.
And I think that's key there. We want to look at ourselves as the parents as the primary disciple makers of their kids, and we are seeking to partner and resource and equip them as best as we can. I think anytime when the church becomes the main focal point of that discipleship making for children, that's an issue. If you really think about it, you have 160 hours, 168 hours per week. After sleep, you've got about roughly 112 hours left. If we're looking at the church being the point where the child is mainly going to be discipled and grown up in the ways of Christ, we have about an hour and a half with that child per week. That's just over 1% of the week that the child is with us. Yeah. And so what we recognize is the other 110 waking hours, they're with mom and dad. And so we want to make sure that we're emphasizing the crucial part that parents play and how God has uniquely called them to this task, uniquely given them the blessing of life in their house to raise their kids up in the ways of the Lord. And so, yes, we look at ourselves as partners alongside them, helping resource, helping equip them. We do so through various resources that we send out. We have our weekly emails. I know Leslie's going to speak into that a little bit, but we also have our family discipleship nights where we talk about the elements of family worship, how these parents can be just engaging their kids on a week-to-week basis, if not day-to-day basis, in the ways of the Lord. Joining together and reading the Word faithfully, coming together and praying, worshiping God in their own homes. And then also putting a key emphasis on the centrality of the gospel in the day-to-day conversations with their kids. Kids are never too early to be exposed to the gospel. You can start talking about Jesus from day one. Obviously, an infant, you're going to be praying over them more than sharing the Gospel of John with them. But as they grow and as they're asking questions, wanting to make sure that you're taking opportunities to have conversations about who God is in the way that He's revealed Himself in His Word is crucial. And so we put ourselves kind of on the front lines of that, of wanting to support and equip the parents as best we can.
Yeah. And I know we have several things that of course, there's the weekly gathering in the kids ministry that's going to be every Sunday. Let's talk about a couple other things that we do. We've got parent commissioning, we've got Kids Week, we've got, and I'm going to forget some, so please forgive me, but we've got the Christmas Project. Yeah. Let's talk about parent commissioning. Yeah. Why, Leslie? Go to you for a second. Parent commissioning. We've been doing this for a while. I mean, I can remember doing this at Goler with a few families. Nowadays when we do it, it's dozens and dozens and dozens of. It's really a sweet moment. Yeah. We've gotten even better at saying, "Here's some resources. Here's some teaching beforehand." Talk to us about because you're on the front lines of this. What do you see with these young families and kids and doing parent commissioning or child dedication? We kind of put them together.
Yeah, I mean, I think historically, sometimes this is seen as like a rite of passage or I do this so I can get the good picture and I can that's whatever. True. But I do feel like what we try to do with our parent commissioning is it's you're not just dedicating your child, you're not just getting a pretty picture. Like, we are commissioning you, like we are praying for you, we are trying to resource you and help you understand your role. It's super tempting to have a child-centered home. It's super tempting to have, to do all of these things that we tell them not to do, basically. But it just gives us an opportunity to gather together and to talk about, what is your role as a parent, and you can start so early, and this isn't something you wait until they're in 5th grade and then you start talking about, for us, I think it helps us introduce them to the kids ministry. We want to do this with you. We don't want you to be alone in this. And it's easy to say oh, you're the primary disciple maker. Great. Well, what do I do? How can we help you and give you the things that you need and provide moments and opportunities for you to have these conversations with
Well, as someone who's already had one kid go through the kids ministry, I mean, Addie showed up here, she was 4. And now she's in 6th grade, and so she's in the middle school. She's in student ministry now, very excited. But I can see now with my boys, 10 and almost 8 years old, I can just see how important the kids ministry is. I mean, whether it's we're talking about something at the dining room table or something, and we're talking about what I thought is a fairly obscure biblical passage, and they know it. I'm like, what? I don't think we've talked about this. And I've said this before, and I heard Dr. Moeller say this, who will be here in November. But Dr. Moeller said that when they look at people who walk with God when they leave the home versus people who don't walk with God when they leave the home, and they both grew up in Christian homes. What's the difference? And they say they had at least one significant relationship with somebody who wasn't their mom or dad.
That's right.
And I just want to encourage parents who are listening here. I mean, to me, there's nothing better than my kids being around as many great, godly people from two cities as possible. Amen. For the first, I think I would safely say for the first, we've been doing this almost 8 years, at least for the first 4 years, I might say for the first 6 years, my kids went to 2 services every week. I mean, double goldfish, double gospel.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
And I'm thinking, this is great because then all of a sudden they'd come out and they'd have twice as many friends. Because that's, you think about kids ministry, it's all the intangibles. Meet Jesus, make friends. It's, man, you have a bunch of great teachers. And, and again, if we're encouraging our families to serve 1 to 10, a lot of times their kids will be in there for 2 services. Right. Well, what's wrong with that? All of a sudden, you got 4 to 6 volunteers that you're investing in. All of a sudden, you've got 2 new groups of friends, and you're asking, "Can Timmy come over?" And because you just met Timmy, all those intangibles. And so I get really excited about that. Now, David, to flip it to you. So we had a guy come in. This is years ago. Matt Svoboda. You guys know who he is. Some of you do. And we were talking about kids ministry. He's kind of a strategy guy, a church. Kind of a church thinker, guru. One of the things he said to me was really interesting, and I'm seeing this a little bit with my boys getting older now. He said the number one place, I don't know if we've actually, the 4 of us have talked about this before, but the number one place that you lose people in the church, young people, is 4th and 5th grade. It was really interesting. He said from what he could tell, kind of up to, I'm drawing, this is a little arbitrary, a little subjective, but up until about 3rd grade, they're kind of fun. Give me the goldfish, drop me off. Right. They kind of hit 4th and 5th grade. They're not 6th grade yet. They're not student ministry. They're, whatever. And if you're not careful, they'll quietly, if their parents are, I'm not picking on parents here, but if their parents are less committed, they go home and they go, this isn't fun anymore. And parents go, well, then we're not going to go here anymore. And then they never get involved in student ministry. I say all that to say, David, you uniquely have been in both worlds. You've been in the student ministry world, the kids ministry world. We're trying to link those better and better together. What do you see us doing well with 4th and 5th graders, or where I know we're even trying to make some continue to get better, continuous improvement. Yeah. What are we doing now? What are we going to do? To continue to invest in the 4th graders, 5th graders, future middle school ministry of our church.
So one of the things I think we're doing well is we have some theological thinkers, conversational type people that are leading our 4th and 5th graders. And so they're able to have those conversations in small groups. I think that's really where our 4th and 5th graders are still enjoying and loving the kids ministry, because they get a little bit heavier conversation than what they got previously. But looking forward, we are hoping to move into what we're calling a 4th and 5th grade hybrid class right now. We haven't called it anything.
Route 45.
That's right.
We're prototyping still.
Not a new thing. Church has been doing this for years, but we are sensing some of the same thing with our 4th and 5th graders of like, okay, I'm ready. Mine is a 5th grader now, and she's like, she's showing that evidence. So we're looking at releasing this 4th and 5th grade hybrid class that will give them more intentional discussion, that will give them more opportunities to look forward in the ways that they worship and learn how to do things differently, not just dance and clap and do silly motions when you're worshiping, which nothing's wrong with that. But as you're growing up, there's also different ways to do it, more intentional ways to pray, more intentional things to talk about. So we're going to try and do that with our 4th and 5th grade hybrid class.
And how to lead the younger kids.
That's right. And also how to lead them.
Begin to see themselves as I love
leaders.
that. I love that. Guys, let's talk. We got a little bit of time left. I want to talk about and this is for any of us, and we'll see where it goes. Talk to me about parents today. So you guys are, I tell Justin this, Justin Mormon, I've joked that he's got a very hard job because he's dealing with middle schoolers and high schoolers. That's hard. And then he's dealing with parents. and he's in all over the spectrum. You guys are more going to be introduced to parents, at least when we first meet them. We're going to be meeting young parents. We're going to be meeting. You know, I could just see you, Leslie. I'm not saying you've done this, but I could see you say, "It's okay to drop your kid off." You know, well, I don't know. He's 18 months old and he's never been. It's like, you know, you can drop him off, like the nursery. So what I'm trying to say is, what do we see? What are you seeing in young parents today? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Sure. One of the things that comes to mind for me is one thing that we're trying to show parents as a church is that their children are a gift from God.
Yes.
And you see this all throughout Scripture. You know, you start Genesis 1, verse 28, where God tells Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. That's a pre-fall mandate of children being a blessing. You see that carried on into Genesis 9, verse 1, when God re-implements that same blessing to Noah. And then you just go on in the Abrahamic covenants in Genesis 17, verses 4 through 6, where he's talking about, I'm going to make you a father of many nations. Your name is no longer Abram, but Abraham. Yes. And through your lineage, a king will be born. Kings will come out of it. And he's ultimately talking about Christ, Jesus Christ coming out of his line. And then you have that scene where the king himself, Jesus Christ, in Matthew 19, verse 14, he says, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for to such as these belong the kingdom of heaven. I think that is an absolutely crucial perception of kids today, and it is in complete contrast to how the world is seeking to look at children. Today in our culture, children are looked at as a burden, as something that, they're just taking up time and resources, and it's just exhausting having kids, and it's horrible. And I think one of the things that we want to do is just continue to encourage parents to reshift that focus from the cultural perception of kids and instead seeing them for what they really are, which is a blessing.
Yes.
Psalm 127 verse 4 says that like arrows in the hands of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Children are a blessing from God to our families and to our church, and so we want to make sure that we are focusing on that and actually really calling up parents into taking advantage of the time that they have with their children in their household to see them for who they are.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I think one of the ways that we partner with parents is to just say, listen, being a parent is an unbelievable responsibility. You know, you can be the main, you should be and could be the main discipler of your children. And another thing that you know, I've said this before from stage, but the other thing about kids is, and I'm learning this as my kids get older, is you can actually have the best relationship with your kids with more than any other person. I mean, yes, your spouse, but that's different. You meet midlife, it's a romantic relationship. I'm talking about like your kids, you know, I'm not speaking to you guys, I'm saying anyone's kids, they want to have the best relationship. Yes, they really do.
That's it.
And if you'll take care of that, like if you'll prioritize that, you literally can have the best relationship with them of anybody. And then what I will just say is as again, I've got 12, 10, and 8. It's like, to me, it only gets better, you know? And so I think if we can get our people, and I think they do, but to say, look, the church values kids ministry. We value, it's a priority. We staff it. We volunteer it. We give up half of our building to it. We love kids. You should love kids. We hope you love kids. God loves kids. And so what else, Leslie, what are you seeing? Are you seeing anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because I feel like there's more, you know, my kids are 3, 5, and 7. And so I'm around a lot of other moms of young kids and stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of times this guilt of being away from your kid now, of like, you know, we have a lot of moms that keep their kids with them for a very long time. You know, like in the service, there's this swing now pushing more towards homeschool, which is all great. All those things are great. But sometimes I want to be like, let us help you, you know, like let us walk with you, you know. You deserve to go and worship and hear from Kyle or whoever's preaching and not have to like take care of your child the whole time.
And then the tears start flowing when you tell them that.
And they hand the baby over. Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
not from the baby.
No.
And I want to be clear, like it's beautiful when kids can see their parents worshiping. I think it's wonderful when kids can like experience adult worship. But also like we're doing everything in our power to provide an environment, an experience for your child that will meet them on their level and like present the gospel to them in a way that they can understand it, you know? And it's only an hour, you know?
Well, but You know, you're bringing up an important thing. I mean, the reason that we are so grateful to Cities Church that we were able to be 2 services from day one and have kids ministry from day one is really, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's to serve mom.
Yeah.
Because I've been in churches before, nothing negative about them, but just I've been in the single service church with a kids ministry. And the single service church with a kids ministry, all the moms are always working in the kids ministry and they can't ever be over there, you know? And so I completely agree. It's like, you know, again, feel free to bring them in. But what we're saying is for mom to have that experience where she, moms have that, like, I think something's wrong on the baby's that, no, the baby's not here. Relax. Take out your notepad. Sing, hold your husband's hand. Like, you're going to have 75 minutes. So are you seeing anything, David, as you're interacting? And again, I know you've interacted even at times in the student ministry with some of the parents there. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I definitely see and agree with Leslie's point about the younger moms for sure. But I'll touch on just the older age group because I think what our student ministry does so well, which is seeing I don't want to say unengaged, but rarely engaged as far as like gospel teaching and discipling their own kids. We see that with a lot of our older parents, and there's almost a disconnect between them because they've hit that relationship time where it's like, this is how it is at home. Like, what are you trying to, so they feel, or we start to see what they feel in the relationship with their parents. I think it's very interesting. And so for them to know that they're going into a student ministry where they're going to be challenged and pushed to further become the primary disciplers, I think is for us something to get that, if we can get that in their thought processes before they leave our ministry, then it can gain momentum as they go forward.
Yeah. They'll start taking advantage of the time that they have with the kids.
Yeah.
So,
well, before we go, I want to talk a little bit about what's coming up toward the end of our summer. We are in the summer, and toward the end of the summer, we do Kids Week. Okay, so we're going to start with Leslie, and then we'll kind of go to this year. But Leslie, how did Kids Week start? Why did we do Kids Week and not VBS? Are they the same thing? Are they different? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it's funny. People, when they start coming to our church, they're like, "What is Kids Week?" Like, it's sometimes it feels ambiguous, but we decided pretty early on. There are so many churches in our area that do phenomenal VBS, Vacation Bible School.
When my kids were young, we dropped our kids off at I think every one of them. Okay, here's another VBS. Okay, you're
free
going to
childcare.
VBS again.
Date night.
that's right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean it's great, and they're already doing such a great job with that. We didn't feel like we needed to replicate that for our kids, and a huge part of our ministry is just trying to provide families with opportunities to talk about the gospel, to serve the city, to reach out and share the gospel with their neighbor. And so we try to be really intentional with Kids Week is a week-long serving initiative, event, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We always do a fun theme, so that feels a little VBS-ish, to try and engage the kids. But the goal is to provide opportunities for families to serve together. And to be the hands and feet of Jesus in Winston, because you can be 2 years old and you can help serve. I mean, it is, kids.
Yeah, and
kids
I've
are
noticed that
incredible.
in the past we've had different levels of projects. Hey, depending on where you are and your kid's age, and come to our building and do something here. And then there's other. Hey, we're going to be over this area. And this is this is the bring your middle school or bring your fifth graders because we're pulling weeds, kind of thing. Yeah.
So we really try to focus on how can we help meet physical needs of parachurch ministries in our city and school. This year we're doing a big focus on schools. So we're doing a school supply drive. We're going to go in and volunteer at different schools, try and love on teachers in different schools. But kids serving kids, and they are the church. They are not an accessory to the church. They are the church, and they are the future church. And so they need to learn at a young age, how do I serve well? And so we do that for Kids Week, and then Christmas Project is when we focus more on sharing the gospel with your neighbor. And so we provide them with an opportunity. We're providing families with an opportunity to share the gospel with their one.
I've appreciated the accountability every year. It's like, here's a gift, and here's a gift for you to share with somebody, and then you get in the car and the kids say, "Who are we giving this to?"
Right.
It's good.
Yeah. So,
would you add anything about Kids Week?
Oh, I love Kids Week. It's since my family got here in 2018, that was one of the most attractive things that we had ever seen in a church. And I remember not being able to do it the first year, and my wife was just on cloud nine about it and was so excited about doing it with the kids. And they were young at that point, but every year, that's one of our highlights and one of our most impactful times. So As long as the kids get to go to Hope Winston-Salem and
and
climb on the
wash the
vans and
van.
wash the
Yes.
vans.
Oh, I remember that. Yes, and spray each other. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it because it is hard. One of the things that we are always trying to say as a church, like there's all these things we want to do, and there's all these things our church says, oh, we should serve the poor, or we should come alongside, and then, which is great, and then it's like, well, how do we actually get families? And I just appreciate you guys. I appreciate Austin Needham on our staff who's helped us organize these things.
Oh, yeah.
It's not easy, and I just want to say thank you guys. I know that it's, I don't know actually fully, but I know it's months and months of planning and then execution, and then we end with, let's talk, how do we end Kids Week?
Block party, baby.
Block party. Wait, this will be.
So it's not all hard work. We have fun
that's
with
right.
it.
Are we doing it on
It's going to be
It's
at Miller
in
Park.
Miller Park.
this
Miller
year.
Park?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
we stepped it up last year.
Yes.
We did.
Now
Yeah.
see how
We
We're
did.
stepping it up again this year.
Another
It's gonna
level
be-
of stepping
we
it
have
up.
been issued the challenge bigger and better. So
Come on, man.
we're going full steam ahead on that.
It's gonna be
Well,
fun.
as we close, last kind of thing, just to hear from you guys. What are you most excited about as we look forward? Here we are in the building. We've been in the building for months now. We're looking into the summer, into the fall. When you guys we finally have a big enough building to do some kids ministry. What are you guys most excited about as you look to the year to come?
I think one thing I'm most excited about is the initiative David was talking about earlier, this 4th and 5th grade hybrid class that we're
Yeah,
going to be
I'm
kicking
really
off.
excited about what you guys doing there.
I think it's going to give us an opportunity not only to bridge the gap between kids ministry and student ministry, but really to give that more in-depth focus, getting a little bit deeper into Bible doctrine, getting a little bit deeper into theology, getting a little bit deeper in how to take ownership of what you're reading in the Word of God and seeing it come to life in your own life as you're forming your testimony. I think there's going to be some great fruit coming.
Well, as
from
someone who has a 4th grader who's about to become a 5th grader,
Yes.
and someone who's about to become a 3rd grader and who will be anyway,
right
they're
on the cusp.
excited. I mean, William has said to me, and he loves the kids ministry and everything, but he said to me once or twice, like a couple months ago, Dad, can you sneak me into the student ministry?
There you go.
I'm like, I can't. No, you got to go through 5th grade. And so I think, but when he thinks about some of the things I know y'all are thinking about, I don't want to plan, not promise, but even thinking about different live worship experiences
Yes.
and thinking about kind of the investment in the next or the previous or the younger generation there. Anyway, I think those are the kind of things that's going to make 4th and 5th grade feel awesome.
Big time.
Yeah.
So, what would you guys
Yeah,
have?
I'm just excited that the building, it's giving us more of an opportunity to just reach kids where they are, and I want to hear David talk about our special needs ministry too.
Oh,
because
please, yes.
this
that's
was not
important.
even something that we could have imagined doing, previously. And now we have the space and the resource, so I just want to.
Yeah, tell us about
I'm
that.
excited about it.
I should have asked about that. I
Yeah,
apologize.
no,
Yeah, please.
we're really excited about it. We've done kind of a soft launch over the last year and a half. We've been working with a family that has been gracious with us to help learn, help understand how do we move forward. And so as we got into this building, we had the space and we're thrilled about it. So we actually soft launched a couple weeks ago where at the 11 o'clock service, we have a team of volunteers that are trained that are caring for 5th grade and under that have special needs, anywhere from the most basic form of autism to severe and profound. And then at the 5 p.m. service, we are caring for those from 6th grade to 17 years old. So we haven't quite decided or figured out how we're going to do with anyone older than 18, but we're working on taking care of all the children through 17 right now. So we're very excited, and I can't talk about special needs without saying thank you to Tanya Keith, who is 30 plus years been a director of special education, and she is helping adapt our curriculum from the Gospel Project so that not one kid misses the gospel.
That's it.
And it's a beautiful thing to watch her work and to watch her train our people and make sure that that every child
kid.
can meet Jesus and make friends.
I love it. Well, it reminds me of a story. A couple of years ago, this couple came to our church, and this was back when we were at Northwest Boulevard. And I'm always trying to catch people as they're leaving, and our church. At that point, it was small enough that I could still sometimes notice, like, this person has not been here before. And so I stopped this guy, hey, you, kind of thing. And I start talking to them for a few minutes, and they're this couple in our city. And I said, you got kids? And anyway, the whole thing goes on. They were visiting our church. They did not bring their son. And they said, our son is severe autism, or it was something like that. they said, we came. They said, we love the youth. They said something like this. We love the youth community groups, and the preaching is good, and the worship is good. We need a place where our kid can be okay. And I just thought there is a growing group of parents that they're so grateful for what our church does, but they feel like, wait, where's the place for my son or my daughter? And so I am so grateful that I'm thankful for the generosity of our church. I'm thankful for this new facility. I'm thankful for a larger staff team and volunteers that can think about this. So were you going to say something about it?
No.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, guys, thank you for what you do. Thank you for coming on. I'm excited about the 4th and 5th grade. I'm excited about, Kids Week. And I'm eager to the special needs and all that we're doing. And so thank you for investing in the next generation. We're going to continue to partner with parents to raise Generation Christ together. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.